That's cool. So what's up, guys? What are we doing? We watched Outbreak the other day. The movie holds up really well.
Oh,
in
it
fact,
does. I watched it too.
I recognize some of the terminology now that they talk about in the movie. That it just sounds like bullshit movie jargon. And it's like, like the 1 in 10 rule, where one person affects 10 others. They reference that in the movie. I'm like, I know that now because of fucking COVID. Like, this movie is actually it's gotten better now that we're more educated about it.
I just watched something where they were talking about a pandemic and it was like real close to what was going on right now.
Probably Contagion.
No, not Contagion. Oh, The Stand. I bought The Stand on Vudu for $5, and it's a super flu that the government created, and it's spreading. It's the way they spread. It's kind of weird, man. It was weird, and I'm going a bit old school with the Stand.
Well, I mean, Contagion was a while back too, and I know that's been brought up.
Dude, The Stand was like 94, man.
Yeah, but I'm saying, it is definitely older school. But no, the Contagion was actually pretty accurate. I haven't rewatched it. I watched it back when it came out, and that was a pretty good flick. That was relevant. But I've found like atypical stuff has resonated with me. Like I watched Train to Busan, and when I hear about stuff like them attacking nurses in different countries and stuff, it's like, oh yeah, okay, that sort of plays. That people get so caught up in their fear of contagion that they would do stupid shit like that. It was actually a pretty good flick too.
Okay, two things. One,
Train to Busan. It's on my watch list.
Yeah, it's a zombie flick. It might be a little depressing for you, Mac, to be honest. So be careful with that one.
Okay, wait, two things. One, I'm very saddened to hear that John Cusack believes 5G is causing coronavirus.
John Cusack is the Randy Quaid of the left.
Is he?
Like, sort of, kinda. Sometimes, yes. Like,
okay. I thought he was the new. I thought he was the new James Wood.
Arguably he can be the James Wood of the left sometimes too. It's too bad.
But that MIA chick, she's spreading that bullshit. I was just like, oh my god, it's horrible.
MIA is just kind of fucked though. It's like she's someone who embraces some wonky bullshit, and I think she's an anti-vaxxer. So really? there's a whole mess of problems there too. So
it's sad when you learn this about people. Not so much idol. I mean, John Cusack was huge in the '80s for me.
Oh sure, yeah. Like John Cusack could have totally. I'm just
like, it's so depressing.
Cusack could have totally.
I still got Keanu.
Yeah. He could have totally done like a Robert Downey Jr. thing at some point in his career, but I think that in part his politics, in large part his politics, probably derailed him. I know that being on the right can definitely be a problem in Hollywood, but being way too far left can be a problem too. And it's not so much that he's even that huge of a lefty; he's just such an obnoxious one. And again, he really gets into the cultish bullshit where it's like, oh, dude, it just gets embarrassing.
I hate that whole conspiracy bullshit. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, number two, I know I've been quarantined too long when I start watching documentaries about the dark side of the ring of wrestling, and I'm already in like 6 episodes in, and I'm sitting there realizing how depressing it is now. Like all these wrestlers that when we were children growing up watching, and then you watch them in their old age, and they're just fucking miserable and begging to die. That's it.
Aren't we all? No, I think wrestling is extremely like the people in wrestling are extremely fascinating. I don't think there's anything weird about that. These are like weird. They are strange, eccentric people. All of them. They are really who have definitely interesting backstories.
True.
And usually die tragically.
Well, the one I saw was the one about that wrestler that killed his wife and his kid.
Yeah, Chris Benoit.
Yeah, and then how like when they died, everybody thought it was like carbon dioxide poisoning. So they did this whole big thing like, oh, we missed you, Chris. We'll love you for. They literally emptied out a stadium and just played this performance of all the wrestlers talking about how great he was. And then like 3 days later, they found out that he like snapped his wife's back. He broke her back and like removed her head from her spine. And then his son, I think he gave him like Xanax till the kid was doped up and then just put a pillow over his head. And then he hung himself in his gym.
Yeah, so he raged out, killed his wife, and then he decided.
They were trying to play it off. A lot of there was 2 wrestlers. They were like, well, I know you're going to try to get me for defending him. And but he was still a good guy. And then the sister comes out and he's like, when they did the report, he broke her back. He literally snapped her back in half, and he pulled her head he choked her so hard, her skull dislocated from her spine. And they're like, and he loved her. And it was just like, and they interviewed his kid, his oldest son, who survived, who wasn't living with him at the time. And it was just, I don't know. I ended up watching like fucking 6 episodes of this shit, and it was like, yeah, I've been in quarantine way too long.
Yeah, and his son that he killed had some sort of like birth defect, right? Or some sort of condition from when he was born. Some like rare like nervous system issue or something like that. Super fucked up. Super fucked up.
Yeah. And then they did some guy named New Jack who was the most extreme wrestler where he's like cutting people, stabbing people. It was interesting.
I couldn't help but notice your pain. My pain? It runs deep. Share it with me.
Number one, I did like the Star Trek movies, dude. I like both.
The J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen Into Darkness.
It's on Netflix, free. You can.
I'm so turned off, because again, this we can actually use this segue into Terminator. I'm so turned off by this need to go back to the original stuff and to recast the original players. I don't want guys playing the characters that Bill Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and what's his face, DeForest Kelly, that they originated and embodied, because those characters essentially became variations on the actors. So anyway,
back to our segue.
Well, that is a segue, is that I don't want Spock and Kirk and Bones. Those guys have had their runs and they've been played through. And it's such a cowardly thing to go, okay, we're just recasting. Everything's going to be James Bond now.
Dude, they basically...
Yeah, and that's part of my problem, too. I don't want to go back to the beginning of Star Trek and then fuck with some shit so that things play out differently. Because then the entire Star Trek franchise becomes a what if. Because you don't do 40 years worth of stories, and I'm talking about in real time. There was actually longer span of time in Star Trek, but you don't have all these actors devote all this time to telling a story that has this long strain of continuity, especially with fact-based, science-based fandom that will never let you forget that shit happened and will find ways to bring that shit back in again. You don't just fucking reboot that shit. Make up some new fucking aliens. Make up some new fucking characters.
Give me one good Star Trek movie.
There's a whole bunch of good Star Trek movies.
Give me one.
Fucking Wrath of Khan. Search for Spock was good. Voyage Home was better. Voyage Home was good.
Is that the one with the whales?
You didn't like Voyage Home?
Dude, it's fucking whales.
It was a good movie.
That's for you, Mac. We're dropping whales on you now, Bert, since you're not here.
First Contact was a good one.
The one with V'ger?
No,
Miss
First Contact with the Borg Queen. The one where it was the Next Generation group versus the... No, it's a good...
No. I said Star Trek, not New Generation. New Generation movies actually were pretty good.
Okay, well, I just told you.
Right,
Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, Voyage Home, and The Undiscovered Country was also good.
Is that the one where O'Hara dances half naked on a cliff?
I don't remember for sure if that happened, but that is the one with the Klingons where a diplomatic contingent is assassinated and Kirk and Spock ended up on a prison planet.
Yeah, that's the one where what's her name? The chick from Cheers is the
Yeah, no, Kirstie Alley was in Search for Spock. It was Kim Cattrall, I think, who was in Undiscovered Country.
Okay, I know it was one of them.
Yeah, and it actually kind of fucked things up because having to recast that. I don't think it was the same character. I think they were variations on a similar character, and her role in the sixth movie was fucked up because she hadn't been in 2 and 3 and set up that character. It would have been a bigger deal, the things that happened to her, if it had been the same character. Because they recast the character, they basically recreated a new character that was just similar to the other one.
Wow.
Because that would have been a really nice little turn of events if they left that alone.
Out of all those films, Wrath of Khan's probably the only decent one.
No, I'm going to disagree with you. I think there's 4 good movies.
I know you're going to disagree with me.
Well, and I'm more of a Trekkie than a Warzy. Big time more of a Trekkie than a Warzy. Which is funny because when I was a kid, I wasn't that into Star Trek. As I got older, I matured into Star Trek. I left Star Wars behind as one leaves childish things behind, and I moved on to Star Trek.
Yeah, you're not helping your cause at all. Trading one nerddom for another, not helping your cause.
But Star Trek is much more sophisticated, and it's much more progressive in its politics and in its culture.
I can see it now.
Much more inclusive.
Trekkie's doing drive-bys on
wars here's the thing.
In a couple of weeks.
Black Stormtrooper, there's a whole huge racist contingent that's going to bitch about that shit. A black anything in Star Trek, they had a black captain star in 8 seasons of a show 15, 20 years ago. So it's a different fandom.
Well, like I said, I don't keep up with the stuff on the board, so.
Well, again, let me tell you, Black Stormtrooper, it's just a fucking soldier, and people are in a tissue about that.
Really?
And Benjamin Sisko was captaining the Deep Space Nine for all those seasons. He's the only messianic character in Star Trek because he became the prophet. So not only is he the black captain, he is the only one who ascended to a religious role. You know, he became a messianic entity over the course of his series.
I never saw any of them. So
Deep Space Nine is my favorite because that's the one one that took the most chances and it was the darkest of the series too, because where Star Trek was supposed to be like, here we are traveling, voyaging, that show was about it was really about Israel. It was about Arab-Israeli relations and religious zealotry and dark political undertones. That's the show where they introduced the sort of Illuminati group. Yeah. It was doing political assassinations and all kinds of dark underhanded shit. William Sadler was in that one. I think you would actually like Deep Space Nine. That's the cool dark Star Trek show.
I enjoyed Enterprise, so that was the one I liked.
I never really watched Enterprise. Enterprise tried to be like kind of the sexy, cool one, but it just didn't seem to take. They were still kind of lame. I never watched it. I've never watched a single episode. I can't say anything about it.
No. I've never seen an episode of Deep Space Nine. I remember seeing the promo for it all the time, but I never saw it. But I mean,
I hate it. I've never seen a Star Trek pilot that was any damn good. The Cage sucked because there was a big deal. They put that on a VHS back in the late '80s, and it's like, here's the lost Star Trek pilot. And you had to buy it on VHS to watch it. And it was, like a 90-minute episode. It had the original captain, Christopher Pike. Mm-hmm. And it was okay, but, it was interesting seeing Spock in a different role and, all these different people and stuff. But it was still kind of lame. And then I saw the Next Generation pilot when it came out, and we didn't finish it. My family were watching it, and we were so sick of it, we stopped Encounter at Farpoint maybe halfway through or less. I think we made it about 45 minutes through and just gave up on that shit. Deep Space Nine. I'd already gotten into the Next Generation by that point because it got better. And so I tried to jump over to Deep Space Nine. I watched the pilot, and it's like, this is the most boring show in the history of all the shows. But years later, it got really good, and I ended up going backwards and watching it in syndication. And of all the shows, that one had the biggest arc. One of the things with Star Trek is it's very episodic. Those characters don't tend to evolve over the course of the series very much. If you watch Next Generation, they're the same. The characters are pretty much exactly the same from the beginning of the series to the end of the series. Especially the popular ones like Data. They actually make a point of resetting him a few times to get him back to exactly where he was when those shows started. Deep Space Nine, none of the characters were in the same place at the beginning as in the end. And they actually took on characters from other series and let them do different, Worf has nothing to do in Next Generation besides get beat all the time. In Deep Space Nine, he's a key figure who marries one of the main characters, and there's a really interesting story related to his romantic entanglements there, where he was in a love triangle on Next Generation with Deanna Troi and Riker. It never really went anywhere. I don't think any of those characters ended up together at the end of it all. I don't think anybody ever got married or anything. So,
I'm gonna actually have to watch Deep Space Nine now. Yeah, got me interested in it.
Yeah,
it's worked so far, but we're not out yet.
I wanna know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I wanna know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
Pure energy. Pure energy.
I've been now working from home for almost a whole month. It's awesome. I wake up about 7 o'clock every day instead of 5:30. And then we take the kids to school still because their school is still going on. So I really don't start work until probably 8:30. And then we got to leave at 3 to go pick the kids up. We pick the kids up and bring them up here in the garage, and we'll kind of keep working for an hour or so. And then I came up here and I did a little more work after the kids went to bed. I feel like I'm kind of always working, which sucks, even though I probably am working a little bit less. I don't know. It's weird. I'm getting plenty done. I'm getting plenty of work done. So it's hopefully my company will be a little more chill. I think we had a call with one of our VPs, and he was just basically that upper management is extremely surprised at how smooth this has gone so far. They were not expecting this to go smoothly, and it is. So I don't know what that's going to mean for the company. Maybe they're going to be a little more chill when people say, hey, you know what? I think I'm just going to work from home today. Maybe they'll be like, okay, cool. Instead of sort of being like, working from home, we'll make sure, maybe now they'll be like, you know what? Maybe it's not that big a deal. Yeah. Or if somebody says, hey, why don't you give us some floating telecommute days? They're not going to be like, what? Back in my day, we drove to work in the snow and, wore hiking boots and all this shit. Maybe they'll be like, oh, yeah, that's fine. Because the whole company worked remote for 2 months and it was fine. So there's no reason for us to tell you no. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. I'm getting plenty of work done. Sometimes I think I'm actually getting more work done because there's nobody fucking bothering me all day. I sit here, nobody ever comes over to my desk. Nobody says, hey, you want to go grab Starbucks? Let me go walk down and grab some coffee or whatever. And I'll go grab coffee at the house. We'll walk down. we call it the break room. We walk into the kitchen and we get coffee and then we come back to fucking work. Like, so sometimes I feel like I get more work done because I feel like there's less bullshitty meetings than there used to be because people don't want to have to deal with calling everybody's cell phones and shit like that. I like it. I think this is kind of nice for me personally. I do miss like seeing human beings. I miss some of my coworkers. It would be nice to like be able to go to the office. Being banned from going there is a little bit different than just choosing not to go. So yeah, I'm in that respect, it's getting a little old. And I can imagine, like, you know, Lou, you were saying, you know, how you're like by yourself at home. I would imagine this is getting really thin. And I think the other way too, like if you're just stuck here with your kids every day, they're here 7 days a week, all day long, and you can't even take them to a park because they're telling you don't go to parks. Yeah. You can't take them to the zoo. You can't fucking do any of that shit. I imagine that would get old too. So if like next month we had to take the kids out of daycare, this is going to get extremely old, extremely fast, like rapidly. So yeah, I don't know.
No, I think everything go back to normal after April.
I do know about that.
We got an internal memo today that said expect end of May, optimistic end of May.
Oh really?
Yeah. Well, I was reading that basically they're not at all confident that there's going to be any sort of lull during the summer months. I
read that too.
Yeah, so if that's the case and there's no vaccine, then that means that obviously economically speaking, people can't survive on not working for half a year or whatever. And so you're going to have people that are going to go back to work, but that's also going to mean a slow progression of the virus spreading amongst people. So, I
read somewhere where Sweden had they kind of had backed off on their restrictions.
Yeah, and
they just saw a spike.
Oh yeah,
within the last few days, and they're like, oh shit, and they're kind of backpedaling real quick because that was kind of the example everybody was using. They're like, well, look at Sweden, they're fine, they've backed off, and then Sweden just showed like an increase today that they didn't expect, and so they're kind of like slowing down their rollback.
Yeah, no, you look at New Zealand is the model where they just said nope and just shut everything the fuck down. And they're very reliant on tourism, but they're like, you know, we got to be alive though. You know, the money doesn't help us if we're dead. So they just shut everything the fuck down. And because they're an island, it's easier for them to do that. And they're fine. They're having to figure out when they can let anybody come back in again. But within the confines of New Zealand, they squashed it, is what they say. And other countries like Germany have handled it well because they just really clamped down and took it seriously. But we're still going to have weird shit going on for probably a year or so. There isn't any.
Well, they said, economically wise, it's going to take minimum of 2 years before we're even on track to get back.
Yep.
Because they've been shooting off emails at work like, you're essential. Basically, I didn't realize the job I volunteered for, no one else wanted to. Fucking face mask all day. And I don't do the gloves. I just don't let them touch me, and I don't touch anything they touch. It's just me in the front. And so I don't feel, a lot of the women there all have kids. So I'm like, well, fuck it, I ain't got no kids. So I'll go ahead and I'll deal with the public head on more. So I'll be up there like 3 to 4 hours and just get burned out, man. Just fighting with these people all fucking day over some of the stupidest shit. So I ask people to stop. People will walk by it, like try to get in my face because they're upset. And I'm just like,
because dude, I was at HEB and this dude was ready to throw down on someone because they were like, sir, you have to stand behind the sneeze guard shield. And he was like, y'all taking this shit too seriously. Y'all taking this shit way too fucking serious. Don't you talk to me like that. And it's just like, dude, these people are getting paid fucking $11 an hour. Can you just shut the fuck up and stand behind the plastic?
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me, dude? Yeah. Like, you think they want to be here right now? No, they'd rather be furloughed, making this fucking ridiculous amount for unemployment right now. That's what they'd rather be doing, but they have to be here so you can get your fucking creations.
I would have probably smacked the shit out of it because I had dudes get in my face and like, you can let me in. I'm like, I can't let you in. Yeah, you can. I said, no, you can't. I said, no, I can't. You don't want to. I said, no, sir, I can't. And the dude kind of bucked up on me. So I bucked right back up. And I'm like, what are you going to do? Yeah. And he just kind of stared at me and he's like, you motherfucker. He starts cursing. I'm like, have a great day, sir. And he turned back around. Next couple walks up and just starts bitching. Why can't we go inside? I said, again, I don't have the employees. And just fucking that same goddamn conversation one after the other, dude. They will be right behind each other and hear that same conversation and want to hear it again. Mm-hmm. Like they have nothing better to do.
People are so fucking stupid. Yeah.
Dude, it's mind-numbing how stupid some people are.
It's not like they don't see the same
told the guy
stories.
In front of me, and the lady came up, and I said, well, you heard what I told him? No, I want to hear. What was it again? I'm like, you bitch. I said, all right, and I told her why. I'm like, ugh. I actually had some guy like, well, you don't really have to wear that mask. And I said, actually, I do, sir. I have to protect you as well as protect myself. It's just, dude, we're not trained for this shit.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't go to any kind of training for this shit. We don't deal with biological. Was it, yesterday I didn't come straight home. I went to the store, to the Home Depot. I go driving around town now, dude. I just get in my truck and I just go for a drive.
Yeah.
And I just listen to the radio. I'll drive from here. I drove by Half Off Bookstore, shedded a tear, watching it all darken.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad for the comic shops that I drove by Third Planet. They were doing curbside pickup though.
Mm-hmm. Well, but there's no more distribution. The Diamond has stopped distributing as of I think the last week of March, and so there aren't any new comics to buy. So unless you're getting back issues, there's no reason.
No, I think that's what they are. Dude, did you see that? Was it Comicsy? What is it? That's on the app.
Oh, that shit that they were supposed to save us all, and of course that fucking sputtered out.
Well, no, dude, they're giving away trades like insane, dude.
So you're talking about Amazon's
30 trades,
Comixology?
huh?
You're talking about Amazon Comixology then?
Yeah, that one. They're just giving away tons and tons of free trade. I went out to my Marvel account just to check it out, and Marvel was giving away tons, not a ton. They gave about 5 free trades.
Yeah.
Just downloading.
They're trying to prime the audience because the simple fact is because of they want to keep the comic shops open, and the comic shops have no interest in getting the scraps after shit's gone digital, and so because that's still their market, they have to kowtow to the comic shops, but they also want to make sure they keep interest alive in that medium. So of course they're going to pump out the back stock because that's the only thing they could do. They can either create digital only media.
I was wondering why they had Infinity Gauntlet and fucking Civil War, the entire trade for free. And I'm like, dude, that's kind of cool. I'd like to own that and just one day I'm bored, I can read it real quick. They got it. I'm telling you, dude, the library app is the greatest thing, dude. I've been catching up on all kinds of shit.
That's another good fucking point though. Is they might also be I hate to get dark with it, but they might also be priming people for digital only reading because if the comic shops fucking collapse, then they're going to be selling everything digitally, which is going to completely revolutionize.
But the shops will still open for statues and fucking figures and all that shit. They won't be as prominent as they used to be, but I still know dudes that collect figures and shit, and you can go to Target and fight those assholes, or you can just go to a shop and pay another $10 and get the build-a-figure you want. Or I think smaller mom and pop shops are dead. They're gone.
Yeah.
But your Third Planets, your Bedrocks.
I don't know about Third Planet.
Those will survive.
I don't know about Third Planet.
I don't know if they'll survive.
Yeah, no, Dimensions may or may not survive because that was always a side hustle with that guy anyway. The good thing about that is it's almost more of a hobbyist shop. It's his hobby to run that shop. That might be beneficial because I think his main hustle is plumbing and shit. But
plus he had a lot of other interest in that shop, the graphic novels for fucking detective novels and all kinds of weird shit.
But it's out in the middle of nowhere niche shop that was already suffering because they're rerouting the freeways over there. So I don't know what happens with that, but I suspect because that's a hobby business that he's not worried about that making money anyway. Whereas TJ over at Third Planet, who's been doing comics for decades now, I don't know how that impacts on him going forward. I don't know how if Anans survives this. I think Richard over at Bedrock is going to be fine because that guy was independently wealthy anyway. He came from money.
Yeah,
so
if anything, he's just probably going to shut those shops, those new shops he opened.
Mm-hmm.
They're way on the in Sugarland. He'll probably close those.
Yeah.
Real quick side note: I drove by Kima Sunday night. Was fucking creepy, dude. And I drove there at night, 9:30 at night. Dude, Kima just looks so creepy with all the lights off and shit like that.
The Omega Boardwalk?
Well, I mean, they still had some lights on to the restaurants and stuff, but I guess just seeing the empty parking lot and knowing it's only 9, it was 9 o'clock and no one was there. I think I saw a security truck drive by. It just looked weird. It just was really weird.
See, and I think that's part of what's traumatizing is I think that after 2008, people could still go out and eat. You still had life and you still had parties and shit. Where now everybody's... That's not me,
dude, but I went to McDonald's on 9/11. Mm-hmm. I remember after all that shit was going, I drove to McDonald's. I got me 2 Big Macs, a large fry, and apple pie. Came home and I was eating that while I was watching the news footage of it. It wasn't like the restaurant stopped. They were still selling like normal.
I woke up that morning. I saw what was happening. I cried and got mad, and then I went and opened the comic shop.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we were open that day. We had customers that day.
I was on my way to school listening to Rock 101 as I was driving, and the first thing I heard, they're like, "Oh yeah, we just have this strange report that a plane hit hit the tower. Yeah, that was really strange. Yeah, that was strange. And so I'm driving. I'm like, and I'm driving. And then right in the middle of the broadcast, he goes, oh, shit, another plane hit the building. And I'm like, huh? So when I get to school's like normal. We go into class, and they're wheeling like the TV VCR combos. They're wheeling them into the hallways and turning them on. And remember, I don't know if y'all remember, like the classrooms would have those TVs in the corner. All of them were on, and we're all watching that. And I remember thinking something was weird because I remember all the Muslim students, they were gathering them and taking them out of the school because there was just 2 Muslim girls in my class. They asked them to come with them. They got up and left. And I remember watching this. And then, it started coming out that, something happened, this and that. And I remember some girl starts laughing because an airplane, because we're right there close to Ellington, airplane flies over, and she's like, oh, it's going to crash. And the fucking professor went off on her, like just tore her a new asshole in front of all of us.
Yeah.
And they basically said, look, class is over, go home. So I go home again, went to McDonald's, got my food, doing my homework, watching it. I had to go to work that night. We weren't going to stop. And they're like, no planes in the air. But guess what? Truck drivers are driving everything all over the country. So you can either stay here in the warehouse and move product, or we're going to send you to the airports and you're going to start helping them load those containers on the trucks. So I was like, oh, fuck it. I'll go to the airport because it was easier. And I was it like 2 or 3 days? There was was it a week or so where they had like no planes in the air?
At least a few days.
Except all the Saudi families leaving the country.
Yeah. No, I want to say it was about a few days to a week is what I vaguely remember.
That was just a really weird. And see, that's what I'm saying. This will be engraved in our minds just like that. Dude, that day is crystal clear in my mind. I can tell you exactly what I was wearing, what I ordered when I ate at the restaurant. Like, it's so weird. I remember listening to Stevens and Pruitt, and they're talking about 9/11, and the little gun nut one was like just going off on the radio. I remember that.
Yeah, I skipped that day. Because it was one of those days where it was the days when I had late classes. So this shit was already like, I think the second plane hit before my second class was even my first class would even start. And I'm like, fuck that, I'm not going to school today. And then they cancel classes the next day.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Did you come to the shop?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No.
I know some people showed up, but I don't have the same clarity that you guys have about that. I just remember
I did.
I was at work the next day, but that's it.
Are you saying?
And it was like that though, dude. You'd see planes flying overhead, people would like look up, like everybody was freaked out.
Oh yeah,
it was weird.
They were talking about, oh, we heard that the terrorists, they're even sending bombs through the mail, so be careful. And dude, that was like the wrong thing to fucking tell us, man, because all of a sudden guys are paranoid about big old boxes moving up and down the belts and shit. And so I remember that was a big deal because like people were like, I mean, rumors, dude. Just someone makes up some bullshit and it's spread through the whole warehouse, and people are now talking about supposed bombs in the mail that are gonna go off in random areas. Like that's another time, and people were like fucking just walking off the job. Yeah, that was just a fucking.
But no, like so it'll be like Arab folk and airplanes. Like people coughing in public is the new being brown or an airplane. Like if anybody coughs in public, everybody turns and looks. Everybody's like, oh, like you better not fucking cough in public. You cough in public. Who the fuck's, you know what I mean? Like
they're attacking Asians too.
Oh no,
Asians.
No, Asians are the new brown people.
Poor Asian people, dude.
I got really weirded out for a little bit, so I got in my truck and I drove all the way to Galveston because I figured I'm in my vehicle, so I'm not contaminating anybody.
It's really not uncommon. I've heard of that a number of times now that people will just see like, fuck it, I got to do something, I got to go somewhere. And one in particular would drive out to the beach. I assume that might have been Galveston Beach.
Yeah,
just to drive, watch, maybe sneak out for a few minutes, and then drive back just to get away.
Yeah, I drove, parked my truck, rolled down my window, just let the sea breeze blow through my truck, listened to about 2 or 3 songs, drove back to town. On the way back, stopped at my grandparents' graveyard, took down some old flowers, went to the dollar store. I wore a mask with my green shield mask on above that one. So I have the white mask, and then there's like this green one they gave us that goes over that to hold it in place. So basically, I could barely breathe through this fucking thing. It was just breathing hot air. So I went in there, spent about $20, bought some flowers and stuff, went, fixed up their graves, visited an old friend's grave, made sure they were, cleaned them off, any dust on there. Got back in my truck, came home, got back in my golden cage, and just sat here. And then my mom will drive by every once in a while, and they'll literally leave food at the door. Mm-hmm. Like, she's like, hey, I went to McDonald's, which was a big mistake. I can't do McDonald's more. If she let me McDonald's, I'm like, oh, she's being sweet. I ate about half of it and got sick.
Yeah.
It just, I found ways to, like, I just lay down on the floor in the hallway. Just 'cause it's a different place in my house. Tonight, I think I'm going to go ahead and start reshuffling my comics because I watched all of Star Trek Discovery. Mm-hmm. I watched all of Picard. I watched all of Clone Wars. I watched all of Upload. I give new meaning to binge. Binge means nothing to me. There has to be a new word for what I've done.
Gorge.
Oh, not even, dude. I'm talking like sloth times 10, dude. It's at one point I'm like, I think I might be getting bed sores because I've been laying here because I literally just watched Discovery season 1 and 2 all the way through. Didn't stop.
Are they on 3 yet?
Huh?
3 hasn't started yet, huh?
No, not yet. Watched all of Picard, which actually I prefer Picard over those, and then watched the Clone Wars last night, which was they're all like 25-minute episodes, but it was fantastic. It's better than any of the movies that have come out in the last fucking decade by far. And then I watched this show on Amazon called Upload that's kind of like The Good Place, but it's more science based where like you get downloaded into this artificial world, and is it really you? Is it really your soul, or is it just, it gets pretty meta. It's cool. Not meta, but real deep in terms of like, what is a soul? Do you really exist now? Are you just but there's a whole other storyline behind it about the murder. It was pretty good. I was surprised. It's only 20 minutes each episode. There's like 10 episodes on Amazon, so it's basically a movie, 2-hour movie. But it was like really good. I was like, wow, this is really funny. It's really cute. So if you like A Good Place, it was a good one too.
Might check it out. Yeah, I keep seeing it advertised.
Yeah, it's just I never finished It's a Good Place because it just I probably will finish it off. I mean, I enjoyed it.
The last season was kind of Paquita liked it, but it was so saccharine and things kind of got resolved partway through the season, and so it just felt like it malingered. I know it was well intended, and a lot of people found it to be heartfelt and stuff, but I just kind of got bored. It felt like it ended well before it ended, and for the most part, most of the last season
about Upload is they curse, which I think adds to the realism to it. They kind of curse a little bit, and the story, like there's this gray area where it's like the underground internet or the deep net. I mean, it's funny, it's cute, and I said the episodes are only fucking 20 minutes, so you'll burn through them so fast. I literally was sitting there cooking and eating dinner, and it was basically like watching a movie, 2-hour movies. So there's that.
We watched Shudder for the month, and I got through everything I felt I needed to get through on Shudder. I didn't see that there was enough there to validate going for a subscription on that one. And so the next stop was, okay, well, now we're going to do CBS All Access, because I especially wanted to watch Picard. And I figured, maybe I'd finally be able to get Paquita into trying some Next Generation, some Star Trek stuff. I feel like there's a Star Trek for her, but I've yet to find one that she actually likes. And I got her to watch the pilot of Picard, and she just wasn't into it. So I watched a couple episodes after that. And then they have all.
What'd you think?
So far, it's okay. It's I like it well enough, but they're 3 episodes in, they're still on Earth. It's like, okay, guys, you can pick up the pace a little bit, but I know it's going to progress from here. They finally got the ship. They finally took off.
That's the build up. Yeah. Once they hit the second gear, it picks up, and then let me know what you think when you get to the end.
Okay, yeah. I'm fully intent on finishing it before my trial runs out. Because with Discovery, I bought my father the first 2 seasons, so I don't have as much of a rush on that.
I prefer the, because I watched it all.
Yeah, see, with Discovery, when we were in Japan, they had Discovery on Netflix, so we managed to get through about 6 episodes while we were there. I really enjoyed it, and I was looking forward to getting back to it. And then when I asked Paquita about it, she's like, "Well, I liked it because we were in Japan." It's like, shit, okay, so I guess I'm going to continue with this on my own. And because I gifted my father those 2 seasons, so long as I ever see him again at this point, I could probably borrow those seasons from him whenever and finish it out. So my concern is Picard, but I will say that 3 episodes of Discovery versus 3 episodes of Picard, I definitely prefer Discovery. It was much faster paced, more involved. I like the mythology more. What I don't like is that most Star Trek seems to take place before the original Trek, and I'm tired of shows in that time period. I love that Picard is the last Star Trek show right now. There's nothing after it. All Star Trek ends with Picard. And in fact, I would think at this point it's probably past the reboot stuff, because I would have thought that the universe should have already been rebooted by that point in time. Yeah. So I'm not sure how that's supposed to work. But so I want to like Picard more, but it's just slower paced. But what I was getting flashes of while watching Picard is realizing that as much as we suck the dick of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Trek kind of did it first. Because you've got all these shows that are all interrelated with one another, and they're not as diverse as Marvel. They don't have to do as much weird shit as Marvel. They're all within a sphere of certain expectations. But Deep Space Nine is not Picard, is not Discovery. They're all different, and they're all interconnected across space and time. So it is a shared universe. I would say that if you looked at Star Trek,
they hinted at that, but it's not a linear story. There's not we'll start at Star Trek 1 and we'll get to Picard Picard, and there's a linear story to all of them. They're all like, it's almost like an anthology. There are all these stories in the same universe, but they're just all stories. There's no real connecting tissue, except that maybe you'll have a background character pop up and like, hey, he's from Generation, and now he's in this show, but he walked out. To say it's pre-Marvel is a little bit of a stretch. Marvel picked a point A and went to Z, and then they gave you a story arc. I've watched this.
I think Star Trek did that multiple times.
I've never really, because of Pussycat, I watched Star Trek Generation, and I enjoyed certain aspects of it, but certain aspects are just fucking boring. And to me, Discover fell in that port. Like the first season, I liked because I knew they were trying something different. Second season, it's very Star Trek.
Discovery definitely had the best pilot of any Star Trek show ever. I will say that.
Oh yeah. Oh no,
it's a real kick-ass way of starting a series.
But then there's a scene. So Picard starts out slow, but there's a scene that happens in Picard that I'm just like, oh yeah. I get you now. I get what you're doing now. It's a nice little nod to because I'm a more Generations fan. I never really watched Deep Space Nine, except I watched some episodes. What was the other one? I watched
Voyager, Enterprise.
I watched Voyager. I liked Voyager. I thought Voyager was always kind of a cool concept, except for the running joke. Of course they give the starship to a woman and she gets lost. I thought that was kind of mean, but I thought that was kind of neat because they could do new story arcs. I always loved the Borg. I think the Borg is one of my favorite Star Trek villains.
Which is one of the things that I like about Picard is like, ooh, okay, I like where this is going.
Oh yeah, no, I've always been fascinated with the Borg. I just love the fact that if you cut off a cube from the collective, they just treat it like a severed limb. They move on. I'm just like, ooh, that's so kind of cool. And just I don't know. I just love the fact that resistance is futile, and that's it. Like they say nothing else. They don't talk to you. They don't negotiate. They just repeat over and over this sentence to the point that it breaks you. So I always thought it was cool. Plus, I remember one time we went on vacation. I want to say we went to Universal. We went to one of those parks, and they had a Star Trek ride there. And it was right when the one with Picard and them fighting the Borg, where they go back in time.
First Contact, right? Yeah. The best of the next gen movies, easily.
Okay, and so the ride kind of moves around, and there's a giant screen, and there's characters moving, and you will see the tentacles, and at one point, the seat kind of kicks up between your legs like a tentacle's grabbing you. Well, I guess I had moved up too forward, and it popped me right in the nut. So I was the guy in the theater going, shit! And I remember Pussycat laughing her ass off because everybody grabbed. Because there's a point, I think, where like the tentacles grab you or they're supposed to react to you. But even then I was like, this is kind of cool. And I've always liked Picard. He's just a cool character. Jean-Luc, he's such, Oh,
yeah.
So, yeah, let me know how you feel about that. Like I said, Discover, first season, loved it. Second season was kind of like, they got Picard's next. I was burned out. And then last night I sat down and I talked to Fryho. We were talking about the Star Wars. And he's like, well, that last season of Clone Wars, which we're big Clone War fans of the animated show. So I'm like, well, let me just watch it. I'll watch an episode and do something else. And fucking 3 hours later, I'm like, well, that was an interesting binge that came out of nowhere. I was going to go do something and I ended up doing this. But even then, watching, I'm just like, God damn it, why can't the Star Wars movies be like this? Like, this is a good story, cool characters. Damn it. So that's been my quarantine so far. It's all sci-fi.
I don't have any quarantine stories, unfortunately, because I continue to be out in it. And I'm so scared about the economy that it's like, okay, well, I'm really glad I'm working. My bills are getting paid, but I'm definitely envious of all these people with all this free time that they've got. And I'm like, I want free time too. I want paid leave too. But
trust me, dude, if it was like, if they told us, oh, we're not going to pay for this time, I would be fucking working my ass off right now.
All these feelings that get in the way of human judgment, that confuse the hell out of us, that make us second guess ourselves. We need them to help us fill in the missing pieces because we almost never have all the facts.
I'm not a huge Next Gen guy. It's one of those where I watched the pilot for Next Gen when it first came on, and I thought it sucked. It was boring, and I watched maybe half of it before I checked out. And I did the same thing with the Deep Space Nine pilot. I thought that was super fucking boring and checked out on it. And it wasn't until the shows went into syndication that I started paying attention to it, because I think that you need the continuity, you need the sequential storytelling, because individual episodes, especially when they're first introducing you to the characters and they haven't got them figured out yet, usually sucks pretty bad.
Oh, see, my mom's a big-time old-school Trekkie. So she would watch it, and I watched, I think, like the first 3 episodes, and I would walk in and out, and I didn't care. Not until the Borg were introduced that I was kind of like, what is this? Like, what are you watching? And I watched the Borg, and I'm like, man, I'm digging this. And so, again, when it was in syndication, I went back and started rewatching some of it, but I wasn't really into it. Pussycat was the one that was just like hardcore generation. So, she could binge watch the shit out of that back in the day.
Yeah. What got me was they ran an episode when Next Gen was first starting to get. See, it's weird. It's like maybe it might have actually still in the early run, because I believe it started around 86, 87. I think that's when I saw the episode. It goes back.
I thought it was like 89.
No, it was earlier than that.
Wow.
And so I remember catching an episode where there's aliens that are like infecting people and taking like mind controlling them, and the crew are having to hit them with the phasers and actually like melt their flesh and kill these people instead of just running around stunning them. And I was like, oh shit, Star Trek's got some balls. I'd never seen something like that on Star Trek. So that's what first piqued my interest in Next Generation. But what really did it was once they started doing daily syndication and I could see the whole, the scope of the show, then it appealed to me more. And a lot of people talk about, since I watched it in syndication, I don't remember a clear demarcation point. But most Trekkies will say that you've got Next Gen is pre-beard or post-beard. When you see Riker clean shaven, it's going to be a bad episode. When you see Riker with a beard, you got a shot at a good one. Apparently the 3rd season is when that show started getting its traction. And same with Deep Space Nine. Most of the episodes from the first season or 2 I don't have a use for. But once they get really into the Maquis and the Dominion and all the lore and stuff, and getting into religion, which is something that Trek doesn't usually do, and like really heavy type shit, the heavy political stuff that was in there, I liked that they were stationary and they had to deal with basically a Middle East situation and a post-World War II situation. So that's why Deep Space Nine is my show. But unfortunately, I remember watching, of all people, I watched that the last episode, I think, with Weenus, or maybe we just talked about it after we watched it separately, and we were both so disappointed because we were really expecting like the last fucking badass battle where people are going to be dying and it's going to be a big deal. And it's like they killed one character. It was like all this war you're building up to this final conflict, and like one person dies. Like, what the fuck is this shit? But so a lot of why I want to watch Picard, there's nostalgia, just broad nostalgia, but also I just like Star Trek and I like the accumulation of lore. And so when they do shit like they talk about Data's daughter, it's like, oh shit, I know what that is. I remember that episode. There's a lot of triggering shit that goes back decades. They do
a lot of member berries. You're gonna get a lot of member berries.
And I'm looking forward to 709 when she shows up. When you mentioned Voyager, I did not give a shit about Voyager. That's another one. I don't even know if I made it through the pilot on that one. I don't know if we even bothered with the pilot on that one. I think so. But
actually, I enjoyed that one. I think I watched that one about 80% through because I enjoyed that one a lot. I just love the fact that they were lost, and so every time they would interact with something new, it wasn't like, oh, it's the Ferengi or it's the Klingon. No, it was like, this is something we've never come across. We don't know how to deal with it, and we can't call for backup. It's just us, so we have to figure out how to deal with it. And then of course I watched. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was gonna say I thought that they blew it because they had all that shit with the Maquis, and you should have had them isolated and in conflict within the ship. And instead, all these people that were fucking subversives and saboteurs and shit, they just all get along, and then there's no problems for the most part. And it's like, what was the fucking point of the whole Maquis thing then? So that pissed me off because it felt like they hadn't explored well enough. They also did tend to have a tendency to run into aliens that they shouldn't have been able to run into since they were off in the Delta Quadrant, wherever it was.
So it sounds like almost they didn't earn that piece.
Yeah, they didn't earn the piece. And also, I just thought the characters were mostly lame. There were a handful I liked. I definitely liked the Doctor. Janeway was fine. The big one, though, is when they started with 7 and 9, and when they got really into the Borg stuff. That's the period where the show, I thought, got really good. I liked, because they also had the stuff with Tom Paris and B'Elanna Torres and their relationship. I liked that. And then, so there's a period of about a couple of 3 seasons where I was into Voyager, mostly related to 7 and 9. And then once she got integrated into that, they assimilated her, and she became just another one of the boring Voyager crew. Then I stopped giving a shit again. I never saw the series finale of that one. I don't think. I think I would check out some seasons.
Honestly, I don't think I've seen any of them. The finales.
I'm pretty confident I watched the Next Gen finale, and I know I watched Deep Space Nine, of course. So
the one with Archer, Enterprise.
Yeah, I never watched a single episode of that show.
It was quaint. Mm-hmm. All I remember is the fucking intro song. Mm-hmm. It's such a long. I remember, again, Mother's a big Trekkie fan, and she would start laughing out loud. She thought the song was so bad because it made no sense. Out of all the out of all the intros, that's the one that was just kind of like, what? Like what? So the reason I brought it up, so again, binge watching on Amazon Prime, they have a documentary about Galaxy Quest and how it's considered the second greatest Star Trek movie, and they basically kind of put their case to it, and it's true. I rewatched because of the documentary. I went back and rewatched, and I'm like, dude, I really, really like this fucking movie. And so they interview like Justin Long and Tim Allen, and they do a kind of a sweet kind of remembrance of
Snape.
No,
Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman.
Yeah, I was saying Severus Snape, but yeah, Alan Rickman.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if you get time, it's hour and 30 minutes. It's a great little kind of in-depth look at how a movie it's one of those movies where the stars align. Sigourney Weaver is great to listen to in that movie because she's like talking about how she really wanted to play something different, and they didn't want to cast her because she'd already been in a sci-fi movie as Ripley, and so she really played up the sexual part. She loved running around with her big tits, throwing them in people's faces. She talked about how she would wear the wig home. Like they were like, we couldn't get Sigourney to take off that damn wig. She was running around being blonde all the time, and she's like, oh yeah, I loved it. She's like, I would go home in it. So it's really cool. So if you get time, it's a great little documentary about that. But they talk about how even Trekkies are like, dude, it's like the second greatest Star Trek movie of all time. Like they even considered it canon in a sense because it's meta. And they interviewed the guy that played Data, and he was like, he said, I think he was talking about Patrick Stewart, but he was talking about like when they saw the movie, the first thing that came to his mind is like, why didn't we do this? We should have done this. Would have been perfect. So yeah, I don't know. Have you ever seen Galaxy Quest?
We watched. Yeah, I've seen Galaxy Quest. It is a fun movie. I didn't take to it the way most people did, but I did think it was a lot of fun. And I did watch a documentary about it, but I don't think it was like a feature length one. I thought it was maybe one of the movies we love or something. Like
yeah.
No.
Like
a half hour
maybe.
Or something.
No, this one is a. I didn't know there was one on that, but this is
something
full,
like that.
I think it came out in 2019, and it's about an hour and 30 minutes, and they just basically talk about. I think the documentary's called "Never Give Up, Never Surrender."
Maybe I did see it. I think I might have seen that.
You might have seen the intro, or then maybe like a snippet of it, because it's a full length film.
Well, like I said, I might have misremembered how long it was. I do remember them interviewing most of the people. I remember. I just remember it being a feature length, but I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good though. I watched that, which led me to something else. Like I said, I don't know, man. I was falling down some fucking rabbit holes for a while.
Oh yeah, when we had Shudder, I watched a 3-hour 2-part documentary on the first 2 Hellraiser movies, and that was pretty cool.
The one I really wanted to watch was that one that they had that Kickstarter for, the horror one, where it's like they talk about all the horror movies from the 80s.
Oh, the cult film one or something. They do like they're doing like a 3-volume.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really big, but they basically do like a whole thing about the horror movies from the 80s. I kind of wanted to see that one, but I ain't gonna pay for it.
Yeah,
I might rent it. And then I watched the one on Life After Flash Gordon, which was kind of depressing.
That's the Sam Jones one.
Yeah, the Sam Jones one. Yeah, okay, that's a little depressing.
Tell me about that. I'm curious about that.
Huh?
See, I know there was a documentary I wanted to see recently.
It's on Amazon.
There was a pay one, and I didn't decide to pay for it at that time. I can't remember what it was. But tell me about the Flash Gordon though. Why was it so depressing?
Just like some of the shit he went through in his life, and he was kind of a douchebag early in his career. But he can't. He fesses up to it. I mean, it was interesting. Again, I saw this one like at 4 a.m, man. So it's kind of like I blanked in and out. It's from what I can remember, it was very. I want to say. I mean, he does redeem himself in a way at the end. He becomes a better guy. He gets real churchy and shit, But for a little bit there, because they were expecting him to be like this huge star, and it just didn't happen. And he had the looks, he had the physique, he had everything, and it was just like. But he kind of was an asset on the set. I think at one point he was fired. He like left the set, and they had to drag his ass back. I'm trying to remember. Like I said, that was the night I think I must have binge watched like 4 documentaries. I watched that one.
Documentaries on movies and pop culture stuff are a really good place right now. I guess because it's gotten cheaper it was cheaper to travel, it was cheaper to film since everything was digital. But it seems like there's been a lot of good documentaries on pop culture stuff in the last 5 years or so.
Which one was that one about the Hellraiser? I'd like to watch that one.
It's called Leviathan. It was called Leviathan. Leviathan Part 1 and Leviathan Part 2. And what's weird about it is they don't have access to most of the names. So there's no Clive Barker. There's no they don't get any of the lead actresses from any of the movies. So it's like,
why is that?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't have the money or the access. So what they do is they talk to a lot of the technical people. They talk to a lot of like second unit people and special effects people and writers. One of the writers in particular is just a gas. He's just like so doesn't give a fuck. He's just going to call it as he sees it. But there's a lot of that where the guys were just, it was guys who were mostly there in a technical capacity, but they were still thoughtful. They had interesting things to say. They had anecdotes. They just didn't seem to have access to a lot of people. They had the doctor from the second movie. He talked with them a fair bit. They had the actress who was was the main antagonist from the first movie. And they did get Doug Bradley, Pinhead. They got most of the Cenobites. But like, you know, I think they only had archival footage of Robinson, the guy who played the dad in the first movie.
Yeah.
Just like really sparse in terms of like the more the biggish type named people. But it was, again, they did 3 hours and it still was entertaining, and I would like them to have gone on to a third one, even though they would have been covering much worse movies. And what's great too is they openly acknowledge it. That might have been part of the problem, is you had a lot of people they interviewed who were like, wow, those other movies were shit. Wow, I never bothered watching
and
those.
I was a big fan of the first one, more the second one. I always liked the second one better.
Yeah, me too. It was so much
no,
bigger.
they progressively got worse and worse too. I'll admit it. I saw Blood Ties or Blood Feud, the one where it's in space.
Bloodlines,
and they use a cube to trap the. I saw that one in theaters, and I distinctly remember it was me, Pussycat, and like 3 other people in a fucking theater on a Saturday night, and like no one was there to see this fucking movie.
I don't remember that one being terrible. I just remember it being exxitrely slow. Like it was an idea. I
thought it had cool ideas.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I even saw the one where I think there's at one point it's kind of like not a monolith, but like a wheel that spins and has all these faces and stuff on it.
That's the third one. Yeah, that's the one with
that one.
The CD shooting.
The CD guy. Yeah, that one was
fucking
so
horrible.
stupid.
Hulk Hogan firing CDs at people into people's brains and having a video camera.
I saw that one.
Oh shit, that was terrible.
There's like 7 of them now.
And Terry Farrell from Deep Space Nine was in that too. It was kind of a show.
Oh, really?
Well, and there was some cool stuff like the chick that gets killed to like open up the Leviathan again on that spinning box. She was pretty hot. She's all gothy and shit. So that movie, like the first act is okay, and then once you get to the ridiculous new Cenobites and the topical Cenobites, it was just laughably bad. But it ended fairly well. I like that they at least tried to embrace the attempt at larger scale, but the budgets just kept getting slashed more and more, and they weren't able to compensate for that. Because I like the third one ending where she hides the lament puzzle box in the cement, and then the whole building ends up becoming one. And then the one that you talked about with Bloodlines, doesn't it become like a space station that's also in the lament configuration?
Yeah, but the whole thing is the guy creates his great grandfather is the one that made like one of the first boxes, and so his family has the curse of creating these type boxes, and he creates one that this giant ship will turn into one. But I think it becomes like a prison, and his whole goal is to lock them all in this box and maybe fling it in the sun or something. I remember thinking like I thought it was cool they went sci-fi a little bit, but it was just like it's kind of lame.
And Event Horizon did it better too.
Oh, that's true. That's right. You know what? I've never seen that movie all the way through.
It's not great, but it's got some cool ideas and some striking imagery. But it's missable.
That's the one where they fold through like space, right? And they turn out going through hell or some shit.
Yeah, it got Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill.
Yeah, I've never seen it all. I think the reason is because I watched a movie called Sphere and hated it so much. I'm like, oh, I think it's gonna be just like that.
Was that the one with
Dustin Hoffman? I think.
Yeah. Okay.
That movie was fucking garbage, man. It was a fucking trash movie. And I remember getting tricked into watching that. And I think Horizon was the next one. And after Sphere, I'm like, I can't do no more of this shit. This fucking movie sucked. And we got like halfway through it, and I kind of tuned out. Yes. And I remember certain scenes like this took place back on VHS, so I couldn't tell you really.
Yeah. No, I remember they advertised Sphere on the back of a bunch of comic books. So I remember the ads, and nobody ever talking about that shit, and it just like coming and going,
Yeah.
It had
so
Sharon Stone too,
I remember being dragged to go see the Core, where they drill into the earth, and I remember sitting in the theater.
Who was in that one?
Huh?
Who was in that one? There were like people in that, but I can't remember who any of those people were.
Oh no. There's some famous people in that one. The one thing I remember distinctly about that movie is the movie starts. I went with somebody to go watch it. We're watching the movie, and about say 45 minutes in, like half the theater walked out. Like people literally just got up and walked out in the middle of a fucking movie, and I'm just thinking, oh wow, this is not good. This is not good. And I'm proud to say I've never slept in any movie except one, and that's What Dreams May Come. And I'm a huge Robin Williams fan, but had no desire to watch that movie. That movie was so fucking saddening, and that's the only movie I've ever said that I paid for a nap.
Yeah. Oh, I've slept through a fair few movies, so I can't say that myself.
Dude, you slept through a fucking concert, you asshole. What are you talking about?
I didn't actually get any sleep during that concert.
Dude,
I was just kind of chilling.
The Deftones are on stage and you're in the back sleeping on the floor. Dude, I was surprised you didn't get fucking stomped on.
Well, thankfully, that far back there wasn't.
Dude, you were laying on the ground at a concert. And I'm like, either one, they're going to think he's dead, or someone's just going to stomp the living shit out of him. And I remember we kept looking back, and dude, you're just sitting there with your hand over your eyes, like trying to sleep. I'm like, this motherfucker is sleeping during a mosh pit. Was the craziest thing. Dude, you've done some fucking nutty shit, dude. But that was like top nut right there. I remember that night. Matter of fact, that came to me because I was sitting there, again, quarantine time. I'm sitting there, I'm just letting the TV play music, and the White Album comes on. And so they're playing some songs. I'm sitting there and I was like, holy fuck, he slept at a concert. Like, it just dawned on me that moment. So the fact that it comes up again is creepy. Well, it was already in my brain.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah.
Yeah. But dude, that was insane.
Yeah, no, I've always been one to sleep in movie theaters. Many of my early cinematic experiences involved me falling asleep at some point during the movie. So I've just never had any real concern about that. If I'm satisfied and I'm willing to sleep, I'll just go ahead and go to sleep. I know I went to sleep during the Star Trek The Motion Picture. That's really? One of the first movies I remember passing out during.
I've only had two bad, knock on wood, two bad movie experiences. Sleeping through What Dreams May Come, and I remember going with Pussycat because she really, 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 really wanted to see Lost in Translation.
Ooh,
it had to do with Japan. That was when she was going through her Japanese phase.
Yeah.
And I had the most severe food poisoning. Like, to the point where I was sweating, I had chills, I was shaking, and I would get up every 10 minutes to run and either shit or throw up in the toilet. But I was so in love at the time that I'm like, I can tough this out. And I remember taking a popcorn box out of the trash, put it next to the seat. So I'm like, if I can't make it, at least I got this fucking can here, and I'm going to throw up in this fucking thing. Or shit in it, whichever needs to be done. And it was, oh man, it was a fucking, so that movie, I've only seen it once, and I kind of want to see it. I always hear all these accolades about how great it is.
It's not.
I'm like, I remember is throwing up and shitting constantly during that fucking movie. That's all I remember. I remember a few scenes. Is that the one where that chick, where he's trying to find his kid, no?
It's got him and Scarlett Johansson. They're both like sort of laid over in Japan and spending time together because they're both bored. Which one's
the one where he's looking for his kid?
I don't remember, honestly. See, that's a movie. It wasn't only the movie itself that was being projected. I think so many people project their bullshit on that movie that isn't actually part of the movie. I guess it's supposed to be, it's a movie about the awkwardness of being in a foreign country and not really knowing what to do, or not being able to talk to anybody, and being isolated. Ultimate wow. Yeah. So whenever people tell me, rave about that one, I'm like, dude, fuck off. That's.
I just remember the movie being really shitty. I love Bill Murray movies.
A lot of art housey bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I remember it was a whole, like, it's Sofia Coppola's film, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, her dad hasn't made a decent movie in a while, so who cares? I just remember that all I distinctly remember is either throwing up or shitting through the entire fucking movie. And so I caught like snippet. My favorite story is still the one where we went to go see AI.
Yeah, then you fell asleep. Or you had to go to the bathroom. We went to the bathroom and lost 5,000 years.
Dude, who knew that fucking movie was going to be like 18 hours fucking long? Yeah. Were you with us at that theater?
No, I've just heard the story a bunch of times.
Oh yeah, we're sitting in a fucking theater, and I'm like, I gotta go take a piss. And I just remember going to run to the bathroom real quick, and I thought I was like the Flash, dude. I thought I was back and forth. I remember sitting down, and I'm like,
you're in a white space with aliens you've never seen before.
And I'm like, what's with the fucking aliens?
Yeah.
But see, that's like, shut up. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, I didn't say it out loud, but I'm like, what's with the fucking aliens?
Right.
I left, and they were falling into the ocean. I come back, and it's like the world is frozen over, and there's aliens. I'm like, what the fuck happened? Oh man, I'm having some member berries now. Holy shit, that was. You know what? And we went to go see Jojo Rabbit at. Oh, we talked about this, right? At Hollywood? No, at
But it's a ghost town now, and you've got all these positive memories associated with that theater, and now it's like it's barely alive.
Is it closed for good now?
I don't know that it's closed permanently, but it's certainly not. Well, I mean, Abbott issued that order to where movie theaters can open if they take precautions, but there's no new movies being shown right now. There's no reason, and there's a liability issue still. So I'd be greatly surprised if that theater was open right now. Now, in terms of being closed permanently, I don't think so. It's still part of a national chain that's, well financed, I would think. So I wouldn't say that it's dead yet, but I certainly don't think it's actively doing anything right now.
Because, man, when we went there, dude, it was
Depressing.
fucking horrible.
Very depressing. Yeah.
I remember,
Because I mean, they used to be a great date place.
Yeah.
It'd be so cool. You'd come in from the parking garage, and you'd be up in that the like little balcony section before you could get down into the lobby. And so you have all these nice lights and all these. You have the arcade.
I would just remember,
and you have the Marble Stone Creamery, and you had at least one restaurant.
We went to that theater so many times, and I will always have that moment of where you fucking had to be all Captain American shit, and the fucking elevator's jammed, and you go run it, open the door, and there's your little fucking Steve Rogers arms trying to open this thing. I'm like, fuck, he's gonna make me do this shit. I had to walk up there and like pull that shit apart, and you're like, come on, Cap. This was Steve Rogers leading the Hulk. Let's just call it what it is. Let's call it what it was.
Let's see. I got to the doors, and one of the guys on the elevator is like, "Oh, dude, there's some sharp stuff. You better not jerk at it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you're on your own then. Bye."
I just remember we opened the doors to get those people out. That's so fucking.
I remember us opening the doors.
We did.
I remember that.
Remember that?
I remember them cautioning me against cutting myself.
We opened the doors, and they told us to get away. That maintenance guy told us get back because I guess he was going to try to lower it down because there's no way they were going to get out of that elevator.
Okay.
I remember that distinctly because I remember we were trying to open the doors, and we opened one side. Like once you got one side open, the other started to open, and that maintenance guy came up. He said, "Get back from the door." I guess also, just in case we sued him if one of us got hurt or some shit. I mean, none of us thought about that at the time.
No,
I didn't think about that. I just remember you're doing it. I'm like, fuck, I gotta help him now. Fucking Cap's running in a fucking firefight. I gotta play fucking Bucky here. Let's go. Let's go, Cap.
That's your secret. You're always angry.
Yeah. But dude, that theater, when we went to go see it, dude, it was so depressing. Because I remember.
Well, I mean, Harlow's is gone, right?
Packed.
It's just, Harlow's is gone. Everything looks dirtier now than it used to. It is not well treated at all. I remember, no, I'm thinking of another one that's built into the mall where you've got like holes in the walls and shit. I'm like, God damn.
I just remember when we went to go see Jojo Rabbit, me and my sister, there was a distinct smell in the theater.
Yeah.
Like a dusty, mildewy, and I'm just thinking, dude, I remember this was like the Cadillac of theaters. Like, you could come to this theater on a Saturday and you would wait. There'd be lines to get in this fucking theater. And we got there, it was like nothing, dude. Like you said, everything was closed.
And not recently.
It's just so weird that it happened so fast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really hasn't been that fast. I think that we both saw Jojo Rabbit at that theater because it was one of the only theaters in town that was showing Jojo Rabbit at that point. And it'd been at least 5 years since I'd been there previously, maybe closer to 10. I honestly was thinking about it. I went with Paquita, and I think the last time I'd been to that theater was when we saw Zach and Miri make a porno with Mac and his wife. And I don't even know if she was his wife yet. So you're talking about a decade there. So it wasn't as quick as that for us. You might have been there more often than we had.
It must have been at least 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I remember going there with family, and we went to go eat at the restaurant, and we ate there, and we went to go see some fucking Pixar movie there. So for me, it's about 8, maybe, not 10. It'd be about 8 years ago for me.
Okay.
So yeah, wow. Okay, is that enough tangents?
Look, you're
the one. A lot of filler there for you.
You're the man in the gilded cage. So I'm letting you go off as long as you like to.
I'm telling you, I'm just gonna find another room to go lay down in for a few hours, and I'll be fine. I'll be like, I never noticed this room had such high ceilings before. And just lay there. Or dude, when I laid in the hallway, I really do recommend this. Just one day, go some random place in your house and just lay on the floor. And just lay there. And not for a few minutes. You got to lay there for a good 40 minutes. And just the perspective of that area, it's just weird. Like laying on my hallway, the tile is so cold. And then I noticed it was an echo. And when I was really quiet, I could hear my heartbeat because it's so quiet. I don't know, it was just fucking weird. So I've literally gone in just random rooms in my house and just laid down on the floor and just laid there for a few hours. Not a few hours, a couple of minutes.
Yeah, no.
I'll play on the phone.
There is the theory of the Mobius, a twist in the fabric of space where time becomes a loop.
Real quick, did y'all watch Tiger King?
Of course.
Right, okay.
A goddamn Carol Baskin.
The idea that when he sung the songs that his name was going to be credited, and that guy just totally took absolute credit for it. He can't, because he's never performed those songs live. They've asked him, it's hilarious, dude.
Well, you can hear it because he started trying to sing it at Home Dude's funeral, and it was just like, this sounds nothing like the fucking song.
Yeah.
But dude, some of those songs are pretty fucking catchy, dude.
Dude, that is the most insane documentary. I watched it the first time and I enjoyed it. The second time I'm like, it has to be fake. Like, they're gonna come out in a month or two and say, oh, it was all a gag.
No, you go back, dude. His Instagram, he was on Instagram up until like 2018 when they incarcerated him, and it just stops. And all this fucking crazy shit was on his Instagram long before this fucking show ever came out.
Oh,
like,
no.
It's
If you
just
go
frozen.
You can go on there's a Tiger King archive
.tv or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're showing all the news footage from there. They showed a lot of shit that wasn't shown. Dude, this shit is batshit. I still want to know about the dude who disappeared, where his wife supposedly.
Baskin's wife. Did you see the photos today where they showed Britney Spears' 2001 VMA performance was with a bunch of tigers, and Doc Ankiel, the dude who was like with the cult, he's in the background. Those were his tigers at Britney Spears show. And then they showed in 2002 she's sitting at the VMAs next to Carol Baskin. It's like, what the fuck? Why is Britney Spears like entangled with these people? Apparently, like, it's fucking super weird.
Yeah,
super fucking crazy. So these people are fucking real, and they've been around for a long time. It's just, it was. Tiger King was like, every night we had to watch at least one episode, if not two. Like, it's crazy.
Well, they're suing Netflix now.
Good, yeah, I imagine, because they fucking did not pull any punches in that shit.
Yeah, so I was really surprised because I had up to that point. Which one had I watched? I mean, Evil Genius. You seen that one?
Yeah, we watched that one a long time ago.
Yeah, I've just been rewatching those because those are pretty good to kill time with.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I like the docu series, especially when they're 5-6 episodes long.
It's on the Harley Quinn movie. That's a fucking weird ass movie. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good either. It's just
the Birds of Prey one.
Yeah, it was just fucking weird.
We keep meaning to watch Joker because we never saw it. But
it's gonna be depressing as shit. Trust me.
Oh, I heard it's depressing, but I heard some people say it's actually pretty good. If you go with the low expectations, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, no, if you're watching it for Joaquin Phoenix's performance.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
The story is fucking weak and shit, but the Harley Quinn one was just because he rented that and we watched The Hunt.
Oh yeah, was that any good?
That fucking movie's just bad shit. I would have figured.
Is it entertaining?
Love it. It's a Blumhouse movie, man. So it's kind of a 50-50. It's a cool premise. The ending is kind of a cop out. So we started playing a game. Who would be on which side of the hunt? So we just started throwing out names. It was an entertaining evening.
It reminded me. What was that movie that Ice-T was in? Wasn't Ice-T in a movie where they take him? And
Where they Paxton.
No, he's not Trespass.
Where they go,
the one where
gang infested area to find gold and.
Dude, no. Yeah. There was the one where Ice-T was a homeless guy, and they hunted him in the woods. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's what Rutger Hauer.
Rutger Hauer knew it was somebody like that. Yeah. What was it called now?
That's one where they put their heads in jars. Oh fuck, what is that movie? Let me see.
I'm on his IMDb. Surviving the Game.
So there you go.
Yes, there you go.
94.
Gary Busey was apparently in that one as well.
Yep.
Was Rutger Hauer in that one?
Yes, he was.
Okay, I remember him.
Charles S. Dutton, guy. Gary Busey, Murray Abraham. Yeah.
Now,
so when I saw the preview for The Hunt, this is the first movie I thought of was when I saw that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's the same thing. They put him out on their property and they hunt him. You know what I mean? It's the same deal.
Yeah.
Well, I think it goes back to
this one. They definitely lean politics. Really lean into.
Well, it's one of those both sides are bad kind of ones, though.
Yeah.
But
you were definitely in that movie.
I'm not surprised. I'll check it out eventually, but I'm going to see it for free. But yeah, it all goes back. I think it was originally a book, The World's Deadliest Game, where you're hunting humans, and I think that was from the 60s. I think they did a movie adaptation in the 70s, and then everybody's been ripping that one off ever since.
Oh yeah, the one I remember, and I've been trying to remember. It's a book we had to read in junior high, and I remember the premise of it, where this guy wants to go hunting, and so he takes a guide with him, and it's a kid, and so they're hunting, and they're going after some rare game of goat or some bullshit like that, and he fires and he ends up killing someone. So he freaks out, him and the other guy, and they decide, well, they can't have any witnesses, so they're going to kill their guide, the kid. So it's basically the perspective of the kid trying to escape. And I remember vividly, there's a scene where the kid is catching pigeons and he kills them and he tries to eat them raw, but they're making him sick and throw up. And he comes up with the idea of putting them on the hot rock and cooking them on the rocks, the bird carcasses. And I remember that so vividly. And we read that in like 6th grade. It was like junior high. And I've always wanted to try to remember the name of that fucking book, but I've never been able to remember it. But that just was there's certain books that I remember reading. There's Animal Farm and other books, like just vividly I remember reading reading as a kid and just love them to death.
I'm already listening to my second book of Gore Vidal. The book about building nations. I'm just like, holy shit, this motherfucker. And just the way he writes is so fucking eloquent. Like he's ear fucking me, dude. I'm just like, oh my God, dude. I love this. I love the way this sentence was put together. Like when he's talking about something, I was like, holy shit. No wonder he was gay. Like, damn it. So I got the second book and I started listening to it today because I'm like, that's the kind of person we need today. We need a man like Gore Vidal in the country today.
It could happen. The thing is
I don't think so, dude. You got all these. You know why? Because of YouTube. You have this. You now have this fucking device that lets every fucking moron have a voice. And the thing is, people don't have to think as hard if you think for them. I look at some of those conservative YouTubes. They're just giving each other talking points. The Democratic ones are the same way, but no one's out there like challenging and saying, look, this is what the principles we were found on. What it is, they play telephone where enough fucking people say the same lie that all of a sudden it's the truth. And it's just so weird, dude. Like listening to these shows, because I know if I can see this, I know for one person like me who can see this, there's 50 people who don't see it and absolutely believe every fucking word of it, and they're just fucking just gucking that shit like crazy because they don't have to think. Someone's thinking for them. Like me, I went out and I found out books on Gore Vidal. Like I told you, when I went to the half-off bookstore and I brought it up, dude, I blew the little gay guy's mind. He's like, why are you going to read Gore Vidal? And I'm like, well, I want to read his political stuff because apparently he wrote some novels too. I'm like, I'm not really wanting to read his novel stuff, but I love his take on politics and, his political writings, what I've seen so far. Because I saw that documentary where him and what's his name? Brimmer, I think it was. They had a debate on live TV. And dude, that was just like, apparently it was two intellectual titans at war. You had Gore Vidal on one side and you had fucking that other dude on the other side who was very conservative, Christian, far right. And he just fucking crushed him. I mean, to the point where he's like, talking about punching that queer in the face because he lost. Like Gore Vidal just defeated him intellectually, just destroyed him. He got down to the most basic, well, I'm going to beat me up queer type of mentality. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching, I'm just like, dude, we need someone like that. The right has a couple of them, but they're all fucking just talking heads, like that Shapiro dude. Because I was sitting there and I'm like, everyone kept talking about, the Shapiro kid's real smart. So I started watching the shit. I'm like, no, he's not. I mean, he's basically just a racist because he's very like.
All of them have those awful voices too. It's like they have the kind of voice you don't want to. I don't understand how people can listen to these assholes long term, just if for no other reason than because sonically they sound like shit. That guy is such a weasel shit just by his voice alone.
Oh yeah, no,
I can't imagine listening to that guy for a long period of time.
So I have a thing about people's eyes. You can tell a lot by the way people's eyes move and the way and this dude's eyes are constantly shifting. Which people say, well, he's thinking. No. When people's eyes are shifting, it's because usually they're trying to believe. They're basically trying to convince their own bullshit. They're trying to convince themselves of their own bullshit. And I get that. Like when I'm watching them, and like fuckers just so fucking shifty. You already see zombies with all these conservatives fucking marching around, fucking dragging their knuckles and shit, screaming brains. You know what we should do one day? You and I should podcast. We should sit down and I watch your favorite zombie movie, and then we talk about it. And then we watch my favorite zombie movie.
And which one's your favorite?
I just realized, really,
is it Return? No, I'm saying I wanted to make sure that it was Return of the Living Dead, right?
Absolutely, that is the number one. That is the best zombie movie ever made, hands down.
It's awesome. It's definitely fucking awesome. Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with doing that.
Yeah, I absolutely I started watching. Don't ask me why, dude. I got this really weird thing right now where I'm watching a lot of guys who put up their Criterion collections on YouTube and they talk about them. And the two that I want to own on Blu-ray now that I'm like, apparently Barnes & Noble once a year has what's called the Criterion Collection Sale, where all their Blu-rays are 50% off. All the DVDs are 50% off. And apparently the Criterion Collection is at almost like 800 movies or some shit like that.
Yeah, there's
like, it's really high. Yeah. And some of them are like really fucked up movies. Like there was one that's based on the Marquis de Sade.
Oh, we've got that one. 120 Days of Sodom.
No. This one's called Salò.
Yeah, that's Salò. Yes, we own that one. Yeah,
you own that?
Paquita bought it because she needed to watch it for a college class of hers. So yeah, we've got it.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it very much. It's unsurprisingly, it's really sadistic.
Really? Like what?
Well, I mean, it's basically like a fascist regime. I think it's supposed to be the Nazis, if I remember correctly, just perpetuating all sorts of indignities and horrors upon a bunch of naked young people.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a rough movie to watch. But yeah, we've got it.
I want to watch it because it's part of the Criterion Collection. So I'm like, okay, well, if it's part of the collection, collection. I got to watch it, so I'm curious now.
And if I remember correctly, it was like the last film of some Italian director, and I think that it was him basically reflecting on the fascist past of Italy.
Of Italy?
Yeah, and so a lot of people, particularly Italians, see where he's going with that. Where me as an American, without that history to draw from, that culture to draw from, it's just like, wow, there's a lot of fucked up shit being done to these people. That's fucked up. So it just doesn't resonate with me as much.
So, well, there's that one, and then I think there's a bunch of other movies.
Well, apparently, while I was sitting here, going through the Jim Starlin stuff, I keep seeing an ad for the Criterion Collection version of Night of the Living Dead, and I totally want to check that out. I need to buy that one. The funny thing is, I just recently bought a Blu-ray of Night of the Living Dead again because they had a nice $10 version at Best Buy, I think it was, and it's like, shit, I should just buy the fucking Criterion Collection. What a dumbass I am.
I watched one on that, dude. It is packed with so much fucking documentary bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like they get documentaries from other countries. That, like, if Finland did a documentary on The Walking Dead, it's going to be in there. If it's an hour and 59 minutes, guess what? It's in there because they try to cram everything in there. So yeah, because the two that I want to own is Return of the Living Dead, which they have, and
that is a Criterion.
Yeah, I want to say it was a Criterion. Well, I know definitely.
Well, see, I've got a really nice upgraded version of that, and I want to say that might have been Shout Factory or Scream Factory, whatever imprint they were using.
I'll have to look. I want to say that one is under Criterion because I know the Repo Man is the Criterion, and it has like tons of shit in it. That one's a Criterion collection. Yeah. I want to say that they said Return of the Living Dead too. Dude, there's like 800 fucking movies. Now, some of the movies I have no interest in whatsoever.
Yeah, but you have to keep it in mind too. Criterion often favors art house type stuff, like really like cult stuff, where Arrow and Scream Factory / Shout Factory, they tend to do the more like horror movies and more like trash culture, grindhouse type stuff. So they're more likely to do those. I know Arrow does a lot of those, but I don't own any Arrows because they're so fucking expensive. But yeah,
are they like the horror versions of Criterion Collection?
That's what I'm saying. Is that's what they do basically. Is like the stuff that Criterion maybe doesn't see as up to the Criterion standard often gets treated done up by Arrow and Scream Factory instead.
Well, maybe it was one of those. Because this guy, like I said, dude, there's some people that's all they collect.
Yeah,
is Criterion Collection. And I did hear those two other companies you're talking about, because there's one guy was talking about some of his other movies that, because people go, it's weird. There's like this big debate over should you get it in Blu-ray or DVD.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Blu-ray guy because the Blu-ray just seems a little more.
You get a more polished. You get a more polished image, but I find there's a lot of benefits to DVD. I don't see a huge quality difference most of the time between DVD and Blu-ray with upscaling the TVs can do now. I really like how a DVD will hold its place. You'll pop a DVD in and it'll go right back to where you left it. Where Blu-rays menus are often very quirky and they don't pick up your place where you left off without you doing some kind of dumbass bookmark bullshit that I've never been any good at, and I don't know that it even works that well. Blu-ray players, even good quality ones, because they're proprietary, they're all pretty much all Sony. If you've got a deficit in one, you kind of have the same deficit across the board. Where with things like with DVD players, you had more variance in quality. You had some that were like really good and did cool shit, and then some that were just trash. So I don't know. I can definitely see the pros and cons of each. I know that in terms of image quality, there's no competition, but in terms of your interaction with the media and sometimes I just really prefer popping in a DVD. If for no other reason, load times. The fucking load times are always longer on Blu-rays. It was weird because back in the early days with DVD, you'd have a slow load time, but over time the players got better and you kind of wiped that out. But even to this day, you get a top-line Blu-ray and it's still got a long-ass fucking load time to do shit. It's kind of tedious.
But the thing is, the problem I have is with DVDs is if you want the whole experience, it's gonna be like 7 DVDs. Where with Blu-ray, you might have 2 discs and that's it. And it's all that data compacted onto those 2 discs, so I don't have to swap out discs. I don't have to which disc was I on? Was it 4 or 5? I can't remember. I like the fact that I can watch it all on just like 2 discs.
Yeah, and that's valid. I totally see where you're coming from there. I definitely get that. And if I buy a TV show, I'll usually buy it on Blu-ray for that reason, because I just don't have the physical space to be afforded to so many DVDs.
Because DVDs, to me, they always tend to take more. They tend to take up more space in the collection. They're bigger. They have to be bigger because they need more discs to fit all that same data.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because I picked up 50/50, the movie you told me I had to watch.
We watched it together.
Yeah, did we watch it?
Yeah, we watched it together. You, me, and
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Because that's when he's shaving his head. He told him he used it to shave his balls. That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I picked it up at half off because right now half off is doing this thing where they're selling Blu-rays for $2.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to find your Dark Match. I didn't see,
Just to clear out the excess?
I think think so, dude. They had tons of fuck. I was trying to find your Darkman too, to see if I came across it, but I didn't come across it. But
well, you know, I bought the nice higher end Blu-ray
of the Darkman.
Yeah, so if you want one for yourself, that's cool. But I mean, one of the reasons why I gave you the Blu-ray I had is because I didn't realize that they had like one with a bunch of special features and shit. So I went out and bought that one. I've been meaning to watch that with you, but it hasn't worked out so far because I wanted to be all three of us for when we do Darkman.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I had picked it up because I was like, well, I was looking for it because I thought you said, hey, have you ever seen that the one with the Blu-ray one? Pick you up a copy. So
I might have said that at one time, but no, I've picked it up.
But you ended up finding it.
Yeah, and the one I have is the Scream Factory, so they've got interviews with like all the main cast members, and the interviews usually run a minimum of 10 minutes, and there's like all tons of fucking documentaries and vintage materials from when they were promoting the original movie, and just tons of shit. Multiple commentary tracks. It's pretty well loaded.
How much do those usually go for?
Most of the time they go for $25 to $30, but for some reason the Darkman was actually quite affordable. I think it was only about $15.
Like I said, right now, well, I'm going to try to go to the.
And then, by the way, I believe that the Return of the Living Dead that I have was the same situation. I think it was Scream Factory, and like that documentary you're telling me to watch, it's on there, and it's a pretty loaded one too. I just haven't had a chance to actually watch that one, where I've got most of the Darkman watched now, in anticipation of doing a podcast on it.
Oh, okay, well, my bad.
We haven't had an opportunity where all three of us got together and didn't have to be like dealing with Black Panther or something like that. So
yeah, I was going to tell you. Oh, did you see that thing about Kevin Smith, dude?
Massive heart attack. Yeah, thankfully, he pulled out, but apparently he had one of those Widowmakers, is what I hear. So if he had gone straight to the hospital, he'd have died.
Well, yeah, they basically, he just put a video on YouTube, like to talk to all the fans, and dude, it was weird because he was talking about like, when he first had the heart attack, he was a little scared. People were saying things that had him worried, and then he was kind of like almost at peace. He said at one point he was kind of like, at one point I was at peace, like I was okay with it. Like I lived a hell of a life. He basically was saying, I got to do things no one has ever got to do. And he's talking about it like that, and he gets real teary, and I was just like, dude, like that's, it's really hard for me to imagine a world without Kevin Smith, because I watch his shows all the time. When I'm bored or I'm cleaning the house, I'll put on an evening with Kevin Smith because it's very entertaining.
Well, you were watching when I was over there the last time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I watch him all the time because they're fun stories. I love his Superman story. I love all those little stories you tell. So I don't know, man. Like, just to realize that life is really fucking short. Like, yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too, is we all like to think we've got 60 years, 70 years, shit like that. But again, like a heart problem like that can creep up. And Smith's not very much older than us, right? Is he even 50 yet?
47 years old. Yeah.
So that's real shit.
It's scary as shit to think of.
It's scary, but it's also, I think you have to look that in the eye. That's real shit. That's shit that we're going to deal with. You have to know what's coming. You have to know what you're willing to do or what you're willing to not do. You got to get comfortable, because the fact is, from here on out, if we're not dying, the people around us are.
Well, I told you that I already came to that realization, dude, when I've had a lot of people pass away, and it's like I'm at that time in my life where at one point life was giving, and now life is kind of like, all right, it's my turn, and now life's taken away. What a Debbie Downer to end this conversation with.
Hey,
I have to go to bed by myself, and so if something happens in the middle of the night, I can sit there like, well, the last conversation I had was about death, so yeah, that pretty much makes sense.
Well, it's something that I found it very comforting when I finally, like, because for the longest time, death terrified me as an ego trip. The thought that I would cease to exist, that everything that I'd ever done would be rendered meaningless by my absence, and blah blah blah, that kind of bullshit. And I got to tell you, it gave me a great deal of peace and comfort to kind of look the concept of death in the eye and realize the upside, for starters. Yeah, a lot of the bullshit that I've had to struggle through, I wouldn't have to deal with anymore. That I would just be an eternal peace. That if there is an afterlife, then I get to go on to that. If there's not, then I'm not around to worry about this shit anymore. That I wasn't doing myself any favors by putting myself through a head trip over that, because if it happens, it happens. There's nothing I can really do about it. I'm just going to, it's going to happen, and it's inevitable. We're not going to be heads in jars like Futurama. At some point, we're going to die. So you got to figure out what you want to do while you're here, because you've only got so much time, and you definitely got to make sure that you're enjoying the time that you're spending on this earth now, because you may not get to, there may not be a time that you're working toward that you're going to actually get to enjoy. If you're not enjoying yourself right now or fulfilled in what you're doing right now, you may not have it tomorrow. You may not have it 5 years from now. We don't know what time we've got. We can get run over tomorrow. So you better get right with your mind and get right with your purpose on this earth now, because life can come up and just fucking run you over.
God, you're such a fucking Debbie Downer sometimes.
But no, I'm saying that it's empowering though. You're like, okay, well, fuck it. This is my life, and this is what I'm wanting to do with my life. If I'm doing something I'm fine with doing with my life, then great. If I'm not, then I'm going to make some fucking changes. This is my life, and I'm going to address it on my terms. You know, it's like I'm working my ass off right now, and I'm not really enjoying my work very much, but I believe in what we're doing. I'm proud of the work that I'm able to do. I'm grateful that I'm not burdened by things like kids that would make it to where I couldn't just, if the day came where I'm just like, well, fuck this shit, I can just walk away. And knowing that I can do that, knowing that I have that ability and I can just go off and do something else, that's very comforting. I don't know. It's just, you got to figure out how to take this life on your terms. You got to decide, okay, this is the life that I'm going to have. So I'm trying to give you a silver lining, buddy. Build yourself up.
You're such an asshole.
I didn't mean to, man. You brought up Kevin Smith at the very fucking end of this shit. Sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say, hold on. Shit, I had a way to fucking end this night without fucking being all depressed and shit.
Oh, by the way, I picked up the Black Panther soundtrack. I haven't had a chance to rip it yet, but I'll have that available if you're interested.
Okay, yeah, I'll take a copy of it.
That's the reason I brought up Tiger King is they got that special episode coming out on Easter.
Did they finally say when the new episode's going to come out?
Yeah, it's coming out on Easter Sunday.
Wonderful.
About that other guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a whole episode about him. So that's why I was wondering. I was like, I brought it up, but I was like, why did I bring it up? The voices in my head were arguing. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. See if y'all were going to watch it.
Well, I'm going to bed.
All right, right on cue. Kids just woke up crying.
All right, guys.
Bye-bye.
Go get some sleep. Great talking with you, and I'll catch you later on, man.
All right, bro. Later.
Sweet dreams. Bye-bye.
Here's to the finest crew in Starfleet.
Engage.
Captain Jean Picard of the USS Enterprise. Captain Jean Picard of the USS Enterprise.
Make it so. Make it so. Make it so. Make it so.
The first duty of every Starfleet officer is to the truth. Scientific truth, or historical truth, or personal truth. It is the guiding principle on which Starfleet is based. Now, if you can't find it within yourself to stand up, tell the truth, you don't deserve to wear that uniform.
This is becoming a speech.
You're the captain, sir. You're entitled.
Not entitled to ramble on about something everyone knows.
Thanks to Born at 8th Stage, Dr. Ange, Chris with Bad Books for Beginners, Christopher Bush, COINBLICK, Crypto News, Collected Edition, Comics in the Golden Age, Daniel Fish, Frenchbonius Sound Design, Dr. Pop Culture BGSU, Eb to Sam, El Romero, Gregory Litchfield, The Hammer Strike Random Geeky Stuff, Derek William Crabb of History of Comics on Film, Into the Weird, It's Plastic Man, Jeffrey Brown, Julia Duchesne, Kichi Baker, King Dinosaur, Luke H. Brown, Odell Abner Dracula, Paul Matthew Carr, Professor Frenzy, Rad Adventures, Randy Caldwell, Ranger Gord, Richard G., Ryan Daly, Tim Price Pod Crasher, Wonder Woman Warrior for Peace Podcast, and Zach Sally.
Kisses, lips like sugar, sugar kisses.